Their first ball. Their first uniform. Their first number. Their first teammate. Their first goal. Their first coach. We take great care in making sure their first isn't their last. We're so much more than a soccer class. Come play with us today at kickstarttoddlersoccer.com.
In life, things aren't scripted.
If you're an athlete, we need people like you and translate those skills to officiating.
You can get a lot out of it.
It happens in every town, in every game.
We never have a perfect game, but the rewards always outweigh the negativities.
Granite City Food and Brewery has 2 Michigan locations in Troy and Northville. Serves made-from-scratch food, brews in-house beer, and even has brunch every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To learn more about their daily specials or to book a private party, visit gcfb.com. Make sure you head over to Granite City in Northville at the corner of 7 Mile and Haggerty, or the Troy location at 16 Mile and I-75.
We like to do it before we go out on the weekend.
We do.
We do it every week.
Whether we need to or not.
We did it today.
It was really dirty.
My parents do it every day.
Hey, kiddo!
Do it every day with the Unlimited Club only at Jack's Car Wash. Protect your car from the hot summer sun, dust, dirt, and contaminants all summer long with the Jack's Unlimited Club.
Join today, starting at just $24.99 a month.
I watch soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
لا تنسون تتابعونا على Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I like to watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
Me gusta mirar fútbol en Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I love watching soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome here into the Michigan Soccer Network High School Ranking Show. It's Sunday, October the 2nd here, 2022. My name is Jonathan Turner, alongside my broadcast partner Dan Stickrat, live here from our Shelby Township studios here having another fun Sunday evening, Dan.
Yeah, week 5 of the rankings, and we're getting awfully close to the state tournament.
Well, that we are, and as we always do ask and encourage you during every show is to please make sure that you go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us, hit that bell, that way you're notified every time we go live or add new content, and because we have a lot of it that we're adding here on a weekly, daily, weekly, monthly basis. So.
Yeah, and always feel free to send comments and talk about some of your favorite teams and players around the state for high school, college, amateur. We do have shows throughout the week here on the MSN.
So as we start talking about, getting into the rankings here tonight, something that happened here earlier this week that we want to talk about here is on Wednesday, you were involved in a pretty big car accident.
Yeah, I was out on the west side of the state in Ludington, and I'm very fortunate to be here, not in a hospital bed or worse. So I'm very glad to be here.
I had a chance to take a look at the vehicle, the pictures you sent to me, and it is good news that you're able to get up and move around
yeah,
and be here
much
today.
like an accordion. She's no longer with us, my vehicle.
Talking about what happened here, this week, and in regards to, the soccer in the state of Michigan, a lot of things happened here throughout the state this week. We can talk about really big games, but Salem Rocks, not Plymouth Salem, Salem Rocks at the Park beat the Canton Chiefs, ranked number 6 in the state. Salem Rocks 1-0 here on Tuesday night. We had a chance to call the Troy Athens game here on Thursday night. Troy Athens with an upset over number 2 ranked Troy High with a 2-1 win. Goals from both Athens, goals coming in the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of that game.
Yeah, and that's like we've talked about every week. That's a very tough division. A lot of one-goal games, a lot of ties. You have 5 teams that have been ranked since day one, coming from the OAA Red Division. So every point counts. And as we're getting down to the very end of the season, and there's a lot of conference races still left to be undecided. There's 6 or 7 that someone has clinched a league championship 2 weeks before the district starts. But there's a lot of action in the last 10 to 14 days of the regular season still to come out.
As a matter of fact, we had a chance to catch up with Todd Hugh after that game here on Thursday night. Take a listen.
We're able to get the game in without any interruptions or delays, and that we could get the full effect of a Troy Athens game. Great student sections from both teams, great community support from both teams, loud crowds, good goals, and some great misses. They're a heck of a team, right? There's a reason they are ranked number 2. They are big, they are strong, they are fast. But I'm proud of our kids for kind of weathering the storm and the moments and winning some of our individual battles and, knowing that we were probably going to get limited chances today. What are we going to do with limited chances? And today, today we were fortunate, and who knows, that's the way this rivalry goes. They're always 1-goal games, 2-goal games sometimes, but mostly 1-goal games, and these kids, they grow up in the same city and play against each other, and then they play with each other, and then they play against each other. But, it was a great night for the city and a great night for the community. So,
well, very well said. Congratulations.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks.
That was Todd Hugh, the head coach of Troy Athens, who came away with that win here this past week. And Dan, that game every single year seems to be a battle. Doesn't matter what your record is, where you are ranked in the state, but these rivalry games that we see here during these towards the later end of the season can be very, very competitive.
Yeah, and it's funny because you mentioned rivalry games in the last 2 or 3 weeks. They always have league title implications on them. With Athens beating Troy, that opens up. There's still 4 or 5 teams in that league that are still in contention. Salem is now in a 2-team race with Northville in the KLA West Division. Looks like Dearborn-Fortson's likely going to win the KLL East. And there's been several other teams that have, like I said, have won conference championship or could clinch this week. And then we also have several conference tournaments coming up over the next 2 weeks all over the state.
Surely we do. Let's get in here to the rankings here, starting with Division 4, 15 through 11. We'll put up on the screen here now and add a little music in here today as well. But, so Dan, sorry, my bad. I couldn't work here at the, it's just sometimes, right? But, as we look here at the Division 4, 15, Bad Axe coming in unranked here. Earlier, they had not seen yet this season here, but they're 10-1. You got Byron Center, Zion Christian, number 14. They were down from 13 from last week. Grand Rapids North Point Christian up from 15. Royal Oak Shrine Catholic coming in at 12. And then Kalamazoo Hackett Catholic Prep at the 11th spot.
It looks like Bad Axe
They can. If you take now a look over here at Division 3, Fenville unranked here last week, 10-3-1. And then you look at Grove Seal, they were up from 15 from last week. They've managed to stay in the top 15 here every single week. As you're looking here at that 14th spot, Millen, is it Milan or Millen? Island, there we go. 10-1-3. They're in the 13th spot, and then you've got Flint Powers Catholic, 7-9-1 in that 12th spot, and then number 11, Macomb Lutheran North, same spot as last week. Matter of fact, 13-12-1 all day.
Yeah, Milan, I think I mentioned last week, not a traditional power, but having correct the best season they've had in their school history. You had Rose Seal and Flint Powers Catholic, actually under 500, but don't read into those lines. Flint Powers Catholic, plays a lot of D1 schools. Rose Seal has been a powerhouse the last decade plus. They've had some serious injury issues. But they're starting to get a player back. They will win at least a district, if not more. And Sunbelt, they ranked a couple years ago, but they're back in there and making some noise at 10-3-1.
That they are. Is now we'll head to Division 2. Again, on your screen, you're supposed to see it rolling around. But Grand Rapids Christian 7-4-5. Petoskey unranked here. First time they made their way in the top 15 this season with 11-6-1 record. Ludington at 6-1-1. And then you've got Fenton at 12-0-3 in that 12th spot. They're down to the 9th spot from last week. And Edwardsburg is 12-2-0. They're down from 10.
Yeah, Petoskey got to the regional finals in D2 last season, and they're in the Big North Conference. So Traverse City West has dominated that league, but Petoskey and Alpena, which is unranked in D2 at this time, are starting to make a push. So look for those two teams. They obviously wouldn't face Traverse City West in the postseason. Those are two teams from the northern part of the Lower Peninsula that could make a run if they get hot at the right time, and it looks like they're both starting to play some quality soccer.
We apologize. The music is a jam, but a little too loud, says. So we apologize for that. We did make a quick adjustment to that. But let's take a look here at Division 1 and what we've got here for Division 1. Number 15, Traverse City West, 12-1. They're same as last week. Saline, they were back. They were ranked a number of weeks ago, but now they're back in at 14-3-2. And the rest of this top 15 through 11 stays the same. South Lyon 11-0-3, Grand Haven 11-0-3, Fortson 14-0-1.
Yeah, and you have 5 teams in the top 15 in D1 who still have not suffered a loss. South Lyon did clinch the Lakes Valley Conference regular season title and got the top seed in their conference tournament, which begins later this week. So they're playing some great soccer. Fortson and Grand Haven. Looks like Fortson, I mentioned, is going to win the KLA East. They're ahead of Livonia Stevenson and Dearborn at this time. And Grand Haven has a tie against Rockford, which we'll talk about later in the program. And those two teams are in a battle for the Ottawa-Kent Conference Red Division title.
That they are. As we have a lot more to cover here today. This weekend, what did I do this weekend? I'll tell you what I did this weekend. I drove up to Saginaw and had a chance to really follow the referees up at State Cup. For those of you that don't know, the State Cup, Youth State Cup, is one of the biggest tournaments for youth soccer in the country. And it all starts at the state level. It all starts with round robin play. And then the teams go up and they play their quarterfinal and semifinal matchups up in Saginaw, and then they'll play their State Cup finals in Brighton here in 2 weeks. But just like the teams go through this whole process of preparing, so do the referees. And I had a chance there this weekend to do some filming and do some promotional stuff here for the referees. And without further ado, here's our featured promo here for referees and the referee community.
I'm a husband. I'm a father.
I'm a sister.
I'm a son. I'm a brother.
I'm a daughter. I'm a sister.
I'm a father. I'm a husband.
I'm a daughter. I'm a sister.
I'm a father. I'm a husband.
A daughter. I'm a soccer player.
I'm a son. I'm a brother.
I'm a son.
I'm a daughter. I'm a sister.
I'm a son. I'm a brother.
I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a musician.
I'm a referee.
I'm a referee.
I'm a referee.
I am a referee.
I'm 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 a referee.
So that is the referee promo. You know, something when I was thinking about filming this, Dan, I had the idea that I wanted to humanize referees. That was filmed entirely by me. This weekend I have a whole lot more footage that we're going to put together in regards to this weekend. But you know, when I was thinking about how I wanted that particular video to go, you know, my thought process was, you know, I want to be able to kind of like bridge the gap between, you know, the soccer player, the coach, you know, the fan, the parent, so to speak, who's at these games, you know, and you know, and try to humanize this bridge between, you know, the referee and the rest of the participants in soccer, and I felt like that was the right way to do that.
Yeah, because outside of professional sports, referees are not full-time referees.
Correct.
They all have day jobs. Some of them are, you know, at club soccer at the lower end of the youth. You have teenage kids, or college-age kids, officiating in various sports. So obviously they're not a full-time referee. A lot of these parents that referee, you know, for soccer, for basketball, or volleyball, they all have day jobs. They all have to get up the next day and go to work, and they have families just like everyone else. And yeah, there is a human element to you. They do their best, and there is a shortage of referees. So if you ever have thought about becoming an official for sports, you know, now's the time to consider it, because there is a desperate need. There's a lot of aging officials in various sports where there is a definite need.
You know, and I think it's important too, as we dive more into the referee community and being able to help with, you know, recruitment and education and things along those lines. It's important to talk about that. I think a lot of soccer players and parents, for that matter, probably don't really know what it's truly like to be an official. And, you know, there is a fraternity, so to speak, with these officials. I had a chance today to talk with, you know, Ron Grobel, who is been an integral part of the referee, you know, community in regards to assigning and managing State Cup and a lot of things that go on with the referee committee. And he was talking about how, you know, people have met their wives and their husbands and have started families within the referee community. And, you know, to think about, you know, there was, a matter of fact, there's a referee this weekend that had given birth here a few months back, but she wanted to still referee this week, so that she brought her little baby with her, you know, and her husband was there. So, you know, it's really, really a community. And, you know, if you start talking about, hey, when you start just, you know, you're like, hey, I'm done being competitive with soccer. Maybe I'll still play, you know, those co-ed leagues when you get a little older or some other things like that. You know, there is this opportunity for you to, create really cool relationships with people, take your game to a whole nother level, because there's a lot of athletes out there who play soccer right now who will never play Division I, Division II, Division III sports, but you could sure as heck referee in one. You know, ever been in a state championship game? I can tell you I've refereed a Division II state championship game. I've done that personally a number of times. So I've been on U.S. Soccer's dime, been to U.S. Youth Regionals and a number of tournaments just like that. So there is an opportunity for you to not only make money, but to really get to that next level. And I would encourage you to start that process. MichiganRefs.org. Go there today. There's certification classes. It's a 4.5-hour class online is all that it takes for you to become a referee. And there's a whole process you follow, but it's right there online. And you can start refereeing pretty quickly here in the state of Michigan. So, but let's get into the next round. Up here, we got a comment. Pedro Sanchez, Byron Center Zion Christian, not Baptist, is 11-3-1. Not sure if it's just a typo or D41 chair is sending that in. So looking at division, so is Zion, this is what we're given. Byron Center Zion Christian is down from 13. I had 11-3-1 is what was sent to us. So, but if it was a typo in the graphics, we do apologize for that. But we do appreciate you letting us know nonetheless. So we'll hop in here now into 10 through 6 here without the music this time, Dan. We tried and we failed. And
you don't want me singing in the background.
As we'll start with Division 4. In that 10 spot, Wyoming Potter's House Christian, they're down from 7. Clarkson Everest Collegiate, 8-3-1. They're in that 9 spot, up from the 10th spot. Hillsdale Academy is in the exact same spot at 7-5-3. Marcellus Howardsville Christian is up from 9, and then Plymouth Christian is the same at 10-1-2.
Yeah, and Potter House Christian is the defending 4 state champions. They did lose their best player to graduation, but do have several players back in the rotation that have kept them in the top 15. And then talk about unbeatens. Marcellus Howardsville Christian, I believe, was just under 500 last year, back most of their roster, and now they're having perhaps the best season they've ever had.
Yeah, for sure. As we'll now take a look here, obviously, as the screen continues to roll, we'll continue to roll with it. Division 3, Frankenmuth still holding strong at that 10 spot. They've stayed in the top 15 all season long. They're 12-3-3. Elks Rapid is 11-7-2. They stay the same. Traverse City Christian is down from 7 at the 8th spot. Pontiac Notre Dame Prep is up from the 8th spot at 9-1-8. 8 ties this season. We continue to talk about how many ties they have. And then Howland Christian maintains that 6th spot, same as last week.
8 ties. So I wonder if anyone out there knows if there's ever been 9, 10, or 11 ties by a team in a regular season. That's
it's a lot of ties for sure. As Ted Lasso would say, what's a draw? That's about to premiere here pretty soon too. Division 2, number 10, Riverview, 16-2-0. You think about that for a second. A team is in the top 10, but they're 10th. They're up from 11th. Their record is 16-2-0. Man, their record that's a lot of wins.
And that's the league, Huron League, that's been dominated by Grosse Seal in recent years. But when they returned a bulk of their talent. And this is probably the best regular season they've had to date. Riverview was never really a ranked team until the last 5 or 6 years, but it's a program that's definitely on the rise in that area.
That they are. As we now take a look here at DeWitt, they're up from 13 at 11-2-2. Parma Western, 13-0-0. They're up from 12. East Grand Rapids, 9-3-2, down from 6. And then Birmingham Brother Rice is down from the 4th spot at 8-3-1.
Yeah, DeWitt been to the Final Four the last 2 years. They were runner-up 2 years ago, Final Four last year. And then Parma Western is one of the great success stories of the season, 13-0-0 going into the final 2 weeks of the regular season. They're on a collision course to win the Interstate 8 Athletic Conference, a league that's kind of been dominated in recent years by Marshall and Coldwater.
That it has. As we'll now head into Division 1. It's, again, as your screen continues to roll, Salem is in that 10th spot. They're 11-4-1, down from 6. Northville 11-2-2. They're the same. Rochester Adams down from 7. They are ranked 8th. Berkeley, which was in that 3rd spot the entire season up until now, 16-2-1 in that 7th spot. And then Clarkson moving up 4 spots from 10 at 12-3-2.
Yeah, it looks like Clarkson's starting to find their rhythm a little bit. They were in the preseason. A lot of coaches around the area talked about them perhaps being a challenger in the OAA Red and in Division I at the state level. And then you have 5 ranked teams from the OAA Red on this list, all inside the top 10. And we've talked about this time and time again. There's various conferences around the state where there's so many close games. Every point matters, and those teams kind of been shuffling around a little bit. So we'll see here in about 10 days which team comes away with the trophy in the OAA Red.
So something that keeps, every Sunday to no avail now, I get an email about the rankings and about how the process and all that. And I think we've done it, we've tried to do the best we can each and every week to explain the process so that everyone knows at home. First and foremost, Dan and I, we do not have anything to do with the rankings. I always like to say that with this, however we can do it, we don't have anything to do with it. The information is sent to us from the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association. They have 4 division chairs who their job is to reach out to all the coaches, throughout the state of Michigan in their division to get the pulse of what teams are where and whatnot. Now, hey, is it a perfect system? By no means, of course not. I don't know if there's ever going to be a perfect system. But the reality is that there's a lot of coaches that provide information. There's a lot of coaches that don't. Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can't control if a team's having a decent or a really good season and they never seem to report their results to a division chair. They sometimes get left out of the rankings. And there are some coaches out there kind of want it that way. They'd rather fly underneath the radar heading into the district tournament.
Well, and we're going to talk about districts here in just a moment as we get ready for the top 5 here and whatnot. But I think that it's important to say if you're not happy with where you are positioned in the rankings, and you feel like you need a fairer shot, right? Or maybe the credit's not where you need it to be. then by all means, reach out to the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association, your division chair, and then they will go ahead and hopefully have that conversation with you and figure this out for future rankings. At this point in the season, just based on where we are, next week is our last ranking show of the season. Because as we go into the end of the season, rankings no longer matter as we're in the districts, right? We go into the district tournament here in 2 weeks. Just under, I think, 10 days now is where we are. So it's crazy to think about where we are. But regardless, what I would say is for future, you got to get in there with your getting in these chairs' ears about your team, and more importantly, I'd be talking with other teams about your team, right? Because I think a lot of this comes down to when we start looking at, I'll tell you this right now, 5 through 1 this week. A lot of changes going on in 5 through 1, and I think it has a lot more to do with not so much the results as about what coaches are seeing from the teams, with the results in mind. Just looking at what happened this week in Division 1, you would think that, hey, that maybe those things shouldn't change, or we wouldn't see those things. But I'm telling you, from what we saw this week, I think the rankings are still pretty spot on.
Yeah, and especially in D1 and D2, most of the teams that are ranked for the majority of the season are teams that have the talent to make a deep run to the regional finals, the Final Four. A lot of it, as everyone knows, it depends on what district you're in, what kind of draw, if there's any upsets in your past, so to speak. You might have a top 10 team get upset in a district semifinal, so then you're playing a district final against a team that wasn't expected to be there, so your road got a little bit easier. So yeah, there's a lot of variables involved, and there is no exact science. It doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. There's no exact science when it comes to ranking high school or college teams, but it's more for fun and trying to bring the attention to your particular sport, really.
It is. And it's one of those things, too, where I do believe, hopefully, with the way things are shaping up now in this district with the district draws, I do believe that a lot of what's happening now is because of the NPR, because of rankings, because of what's happening around the state. I think that the state of Michigan is getting it right at this point in time. But don't go anywhere. When we come back from break here, we're going to get into the top 5 teams here across the state of Michigan. We'll also get into the districts and who's ranked at number 1 and number 2 in their respective brackets, and we'll cover that and much more here. You're watching the High School Ranking Show here on the Michigan Soccer Network. We'll be right back.
Their first ball, their first uniform, their first number, their first teammate, their first goal, their first coach. We take great care in making sure their first isn't their last. We're so much more than a soccer class. Come play with us today at kickstarttoddlersoccer.com.
Granite City Food and Brewery has 2 Michigan locations in Troy and Northville. Serves made-from-scratch food, brews in-house beer, and even has brunch every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To learn more about their daily specials or to book a private party, visit gcfb.com. Make sure you head over to Granite City in Northville at the corner of 7 Mile and Haggerty, or the Troy location at 16 Mile and I-75.
In life, things aren't scripted.
If you're an athlete, we need people like you and translate those skills to officiating.
You can get a lot out of it.
It happens in every town, in every game.
We never have a perfect game, but the rewards always outweigh the negativities.
Welcome back here into our MSN studios in Shelby Township. My name is John Turner. This is Dan Stickrat. We're bringing you high school rankings here tonight. Also going to talk a little bit about what happened here earlier today with the bracket line assignments in each division. We're going to start with Division 2. Division 2, and I don't have the graphic for this. If you want this information, you're going to want to head over to the Michigan High School Athletic Association website. Go to boys soccer. It has all the bracket information right there on your screen. But looking here at District 17, St. Joseph and Edwardsburg were 1 and 2 in that district. Clearly, St. Joseph and Edwardsburg, in our rankings here throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, and they've been there all season. They're both quality programs that, again, if they could catch a break or two and make a run in the postseason.
And then we look at Fenton at number 1, and then South Line East. Again, another teams that we've seen throughout the season ranked. And then we head over to District number 26, Warren De La Salle, against Marysville in that second spot.
And De La Salle's always been a Class A Division I school for 40-plus years, and slight enrollment drop. This is the first time ever they've been down in Division II.
And then, of course, Richard Gull Lake and Palmer Western, they're 1 and 2 in their bracket in District 19. DeWitt and St. John's in District 20. And then Petoskey and Alpena, 1 and 2.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, those are two teams on the rise, Petoskey and Alpena, and then a collision course in that district would likely, a team like Marshall could pull an upset, but Parma Western and Gull Lake, opposite end of the bracket, could make for a great district final here in a few weeks.
That it could, as we take a look at Division 3 here for a second. Paw Paw and Watervellet, they're District 33, 1 and 2. You've got Eaton Rapids and Lake Odessa. In District 37, Detroit Country Day and Clawson is your 1 and 2 in District 41. Look at Imlay City and Richmond in 42. You got Holland Christian and Fenville. Two ranked teams.
Seeing a lot of teams that have kind of played through the season that you would expect them to be a seeded team in their various districts.
You've got Frankenmuth and Unionville Sibawang. Again, 1 and 2. Frankenmuth, we've seen them again. They've been right there throughout the season in Division 3. Gabriel Richard and Canton Prep. Flint and Powers Catholic in District 44 is in that second spot. Saginaw Swan Valley in that first spot. So, looking at this, it's, and then you got Pontiac Notre Dame Prep, which again been ranked in Division 3 for most of this season, just looking at where they're at, we're not in that 1 or 2 spot, and they're in that D spot in District 42. As a comment coming in, maybe you should be present at these big games and make educated comments regarding games. Happy to send the VO of the game to educate you on the comments, which are clearly wrong. I'm assuming Danny Price is talking to Danny Garrett. Because we've been in a number of Brother Rice games, and Brother Rice is a phenomenal team. Again, looking at here's the nice thing about Brother Rice. Regardless what happens in the Catholic League, Brother Rice is in Division 2, Catholic Central is Division 1. They're not going to see each other in the playoffs. Right. Brother Rice has other fish to fry, so to speak. So, but Brother Rice is a phenomenal team. They got a great player in Josh Copeland, phenomenal player who I think All-State. He is a very, very good dynamic player.
Yeah, and I think their coach mentioned early in the preseason they have like 8 kids on their roster getting recruited.
Yeah, so I mean it's and Danny Price has done a fantastic job with them this season. Again, they've been ranked all season. We've been talking about them, covered them numerous times. They're ranked 6th right now, 8-3-1 overall. Their only losses this season have come to Catholic Central. I'm not sure the other one. I didn't look at.
Those aren't obviously not considered bad losses.
No,
Catholic
no,
Central
I mean-
is one of the top teams in Division I that will definitely challenge for the crown. At
That
that
they
level.
will. So, but we do appreciate the comments nonetheless. Let's go ahead and get into Division One. Division One. Let's get into 5 through 1 here in our rankings here tonight. We'll start with Division 4 as we always do. This one again, 5 through 1 in Division 4. Granville Calvin Christian, 12-2. They're down from the 4th spot. Rochester Hills Northwest up from 5th at 9-1-2. Lansing Christian is 16-2. Grosse Pointe Woods University Liggett and Hartford. All of them stayed the same, 1, 2, 3, as it was last week.
Yeah, and University Liggett and Hartford, they've pretty much been up there all season. Could they be on a collision course to meet on the season's final day? Both those teams appears has the talent to make a deep run, and Hartford has never played in the state championship game, never won a state title, so this could be their year. Liggett, on the other hand, is a program for 40-plus years that's been around. They've had multiple teams in the Final Four. They won a few state championships, and they never seem to go away.
No question about that. As we take a look at now our Division 3 in Hudsonville Unity Christian, again, Division 3, everything stays the same as it did last week. We'll go through this: Hudsonville Unity Christian, Imlay City, Grand Rapids South Christian, Detroit Country Day at 10-2, Grand Rapids Catholic Central. Again, all 5 of those exactly the same.
And it just depends on district draws, but all those teams have the talent to make a deep run. Would be surprised to see anyone in really that top 8 or 9 in Division 3 playing in the state semifinals.
That they are. As we look now at Division 2, Grand Rapids Forest Hills Central is down from the 2nd spot. St. Joseph's is up from 7th at 14-1-2. And then Bloomfield Hills Cranbrook Kingswood, we've talked about this, they're up from 5. They started off at 15, and then they made their way here in the top 5, but they're 9-0-3. Grand Rapids Forest Hills Northern 10-2-2. And then we've got Richard Gull Lake, which is the same there in Division 2.
And St. Joe's only loss is the Richland Gull Lake. So St. Joe's actually won the Southwestern Michigan Athletic Conference last year. And Gull Lake won the conference tournament. Now Gull Lake has clinched the regular season title and have the #1 seed in that conference, which has 10 schools. I believe it's 7 Division I schools and 3 Division II schools in that conference. And Gull Lake, their only loss is to Division I school, Portage Central, 1-0. They're really starting to hit their stride. They've outscored the opposition 77-12. And that's a program that lost in the state semis last year and won a state championship 2 years ago. They next man up. They have a lot of players on that roster that could become college players in a couple of years.
No question. As we now head to Division 1, where parity is the word of the day. Troy Athens bumps for the first time this season into the top 5, up from 8. The highest prior to this was 6. They are 11-3-1. Okemos, 11-0-4. They're up from the 5th spot, which basically they were at the entire season up until now. Rockford, again, that 5-4, basically the whole top 5 for Division 1 basically was exactly the same from week to week. Rockford in that 3rd spot, 13-0-1. Now this is the big one. Catholic Central and Troy High have swapped. Troy High now taken over first place, the rankings, and then Detroit Catholic Central in 2nd.
Yeah, which surprises me because Detroit Catholic Central did tie Ann Arbor Skyline a week ago Saturday after their rankings in D1 were compiled. And they beat Hamtramck earlier in the week, and then they turned around and had a draw against Okemos and a draw against UD Jesuit, which was ranked early in the season but has since fallen out. So
yes.
15-1-3, they still have had a great season. Don't be surprised if we see Catholic Central emerge with the trophy at the end of the season. They have all the right pieces, and so does Troy High. They actually outshot Troy Athens on Thursday. The game was supposed to be played the previous week, but a lot of games in the Detroit area were rained out that night, and they held on for dear life. And as we've talked, I've said it again, some of these leagues around the state, every point matters. You know, you could have 3 shots on goal and score twice and win a game. You could be outpossessed, outplayed the whole game, but you got to find a way to finish to grab that tie or grab that win for 3 points. And it'll be interesting to see here once we get to the district tournaments what schools actually emerge as the conference champions, because there's a lot of tight races around the state.
Yeah, and again, being that we called that game on Thursday, I could sit here and say, even Todd Hugh in his post-game interview made the comments like, that is a really good Troy High team, right? And at the end there, they threw everything at Athens, but the kitchen sink, so to speak, and ring off the post, and I mean, it was a fantastic finish to that game, and that's how these games will go, right? I mean, this is. Jimmy Citura did not give any post-game remarks after that game, but I've had many conversations with Jimmy in regards to soccer, and the one thing he's always said to me and made it very clear to me, which I think is a great comment, is like, man, this game is, he goes, it's the craziest game in the world and it's the most awesome game in the world, all in the same moment, right? Because here you are, you're again looking at from top to down roster, looking at a Troy Athens Troy High game, you look at that and say, man, Troy High should win that game 9 out of 10 times, right? You only got to play them once, right? And here's the thing, right? Troy High and Athens there's a very good chance they're going to meet up here again in a few short weeks. Is looking at the bracket for what they have and what they're going to have to face off here. They're in the District 14, hosting by Troy Athens. Berkeley's the number 1 seed. So Troy High and Athens, Troy ended up being the 2nd seed, and then after that, everybody else gets kind of put around. So Berkeley will have the first round bye. They will play the winner of Groves and Troy Athens. Troy High will play Oak Park. Detroit U of D Jesuit will take on Royal Oak. Right. So Troy Athens and Troy High could very well see each other in a district final here in a few short weeks.
That's one of those districts where there really isn't a weak team.
No. Maybe one.
Birmingham Groves won a league championship last year. They graduated a lot, but they're still competitive.
Yep.
U of D Jesuit plays in the Central Division of the Catholic League. They're still a strong team. I stand corrected. Oak Park is the only team in that district that has a losing record, but Royal Oak was ranked a little bit last year. They're still a quality side. And you can go through all 4 divisions. You'll find districts just like that one where you look at it, it's like, well, I can't pick a winner here. There'll probably be multiple shootouts and double overtime games involved.
Well, I mean, look at the Northville district, right? Northville, number 1 seed in Northville. Plymouth Salem is the number 2 seed. I keep saying Plymouth Salem because I'm so used to saying Plymouth Salem from growing up. So it's like I got to get rid of that, right?
But it's Salem, a habit a lot of us have.
Salem number 2, and you've got Ken versus Westland John Glenn. You've got Salem versus Plymouth. So talk about a rivalry game right from the get-go. Livonia Churchill against Wayne Memorial. Like that district in itself is like atrocious. It's like, you get into Catholic Central, right? I mean, Catholic Central's it's being hosted by Novi, but Walled Lake Central, Walled Lake Northern, White Lake, Lakeland, Milford, South Line, Clarkson's not going to be an easy. I mean, just looking at these districts, there's just going to be a lot. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, South Line and Catholic Central, I believe, faced off in a district final 2 years ago. I want to say CC won something like 3-1, but
yeah.
South Lyon, the last several years, is emerged as a quality team. They, like I mentioned earlier, they have already captured their conference crown. They're number 1 seed in their conference tournament. And they lost their best player, graduated, went to Michigan State, but they still have, I believe, like 14 seniors on the roster. So if they were to get through and face Catholic Central in the district final, that's no walk in the park for CC. I mean, those are the type of games where, anything can happen. You throw a little bit of rain onto the pitch in a district game, and how many times have anyone that's been around soccer watched that game where a team shoots another team 28-6?
We saw it many years ago with Athens Utica.
Yeah, they sneak a couple restarts in the back of the net. The other team swarms, pelters, hits the crossbar, goalpost, shots wide, and they end up losing. I mean, it can happen. It's a strange sport.
Yeah, and we saw a little bit of that on Thursday night, where you've got a team in Athens that knows how dangerous with the pieces that they have with Kuzmano, and Palomino and Worrell, who are in that in that lineup. I mean, just a phenomenal midfield that Troy High has, and being Todd Hugh had a great game plan about keeping things really compact in the middle of the park, forcing Troy High to go out wide, which you could tell just based on from our standpoint that they just didn't seem comfortable on Thursday doing that. But you start doing that in a district game where already going into it, as a player you're already timid, right? Because it's win or go home, right? So in those moments where you're afraid to make mistakes, right? And the team that makes the there's always going to be mistakes in a game, but the crucial mistakes that happen that cost you, goals and ultimately, whether you win or lose, players are afraid to make those decisions. And when you start frustrating good players by double teaming them in some moments, right? Getting at their heels, making things really compact, and having someone literally follow that player around, right? And mirroring that player the entire game. Those moments can create opportunities for other teams to take advantage of. So we've seen it time and time again. Detroit Catholic Central, ranked number 1 for most of the season. We know they have the firepower. Me and you sitting at this table, not putting any pressure on Catholic Central, but they should be the team to win this thing.
Yeah, their only losses early in the season when they were shorthanded. They had a couple of guys. It was a Saturday night game. They didn't have their full lineup. And they lost to Midland Dow, and that's not a slouch either. Midland Dow is currently tied in first place in the Saginaw Valley Conference with Grand Blanc, and I do believe they beat Grand Blanc. So when that league wraps up this week, they might win back-to-back league championships up in the Saginaw Valley.
No
So
question.
it's not like they had a bad loss per se. Dow is one of those schools that's kind of bubbling under, so to speak. They were ranked in and out of the rankings the last several years. They always seem to have a quality team, and it's not a bad loss. So Catholic Central, player for player, I mean, they have all of the makings of winning the Division I state championship, as does Troy, as does Rockford. I mean, Rockford's third. They haven't lost yet either. Their only blemish was a draw with Grand Haven in their conference, and Grand Haven hasn't lost either. Now, Grand Haven and Rockford are actually in separate districts, so they wouldn't meet until probably a regional, semi-regional final if they were to get through from their districts in a couple of weeks. But
yeah, Rockford is in District 3, Grand Haven District 2, so they would not see each other probably until the regional finals. Because, I mean, 1 versus 2 typically, right? You'd see that.
Yeah.
And then 3 versus 4. Right? So typically how that would work out. But no, you're right. And then we look at Division 4, which we haven't gotten to in regards to these districts. Marcellus Howardsville Christian, number 1 seed. Bridgman, number 2. Grosse Pointe Woods, University Liggett, Royal Oak Shrine in the same district. 1 and 2 are respectively. Bad Axe, who just joined the rankings here for the first time this season. They have been, in the last number of years, they have made their way, far in the tournament, but not won a state championship, right? They've made their way there.
They got to the semis.
It's gotten the semis, but thinking about where they are up there in the thumb, right in the middle, basically of between Port Huron, right, and Caseville is where they smack dab, kind of right in the middle. You think that they are able to get the kind of talent to be able to compete at this level? Year in, year out, it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it's one of those things where soccer's just grown so much. I played back in the late 1980s, and you could look at, it was classifications back then, but you could look and say, there's a small group of teams that have a chance to get to the Final Four or win a state championship. Now, it's not so clear cut. There are teams all over the place that they have very good club players, they have quality coaching, they have, a lot of depth, they have a lot of returning players that were all state, all district, all conference the previous year. There's camaraderie. It's and there's so many more schools. I think I mentioned in either week 1 or 2 of the rankings show that there's like over 500 schools now that have soccer in the state of Michigan. Because when we talk about, there's also the Upper Peninsula has its own tournament due to that volleyball lawsuit that was first started back in 2001. You got the home schools, and there's some very good homeschool teams out there that play even ranked teams in all 4 divisions. And a homeschool team from Michigan has won 9 of the last 11 national championships in the homeschool circuit. So there's amazing talent all over. And even with the academies drawing some kids out, some of these rosters, they go up and down a roster, and you see 6, 8, 9 kids have been offered at various levels collegially. So, at the end of the day, winning a league, winning a district, regional, getting into the finals, it's not easy. It's an accomplishment that shouldn't be taken for granted, because I've heard coaches talk about, well, we went 15-3-3, but we lost in a district final 1-0 in a shootout, so the season wasn't a success.
Yeah.
And I say, really? You won your league, you lost in a district final in a shootout, and there was 5 ranked teams in your district.
Yeah.
Only one team is going to prevail, so I don't see how you can't consider that success. Because there'll be a year where maybe you're not the top seed in your district, or you're farther down in the rankings, or maybe not ranked at all, but you get hot and you win your district.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I look back at what we did, we'll look at what happened with Brother Rice last year. Brother Rice, I mean, going into the playoffs, I think they had 7 wins. I think.
Yeah, they underachieved a little bit in the regular season, but they put it all together.
Put it all together, and they made their way all the way to the state finals. I mean, and an unbelievable run. Right? When I was a part of the state championship back in 1997, that's obviously we're dating ourselves, but I mean, we were a team that at that time was 7-4-4. You know, so it's like, you know, so it's one of those things where, again, just, you know, the playoffs, anything can happen. And hey, if you start to get on that momentum and you start to, you know, everything starts coming together all at the right time, anything can happen. So, but the rankings, hey, this has been fun. We've been having a blast doing these ranking shows, talking about high school soccer like we have. I mean, Dan's got a plethora of information. I don't even know sure where he finds it all from, but he's able to bring it here and have a conversation about this. We want to say thank you for joining us here as we each and every week. We'll be back here next week at the same time, 8 o'clock Eastern, for the last ranking show here of the fall. You know, as we continue to grow, we'll be providing and adding more content, more things to the network, as we've talked about in the past. Just really, really excited about where things are going. Again, stay tuned for more information. We've got a lot of things that we're going to be doing here in the coming weeks and months as our high school coverage starts to wrap up. We've got the state finals pregame show that we're preparing for right now on November the 5th, but just a lot of other things coming up. But here later this week, tomorrow night, we'll be out at Grosse Pointe South as they welcome an Anchor Bay in a MAC Red matchup. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. right here on the Michigan Soccer Network. Then on Wednesday, we're bringing not 1 but 2 games, the Catholic League Finals, the AA and the Bishop. That's what they call it, right? So we are still kind of waiting to the actual teams that are playing. That we have a general idea, but we have not been confirmed yet with the league. But both games at 5 and 7 will be available on the Catholic League website. We'll have information for you guys later this week about that. And then on Thursday, Sterling Heights Stevenson welcomes in Macomb, Dakota. Should be a good game, good matchup. That takes place at 7 o'clock out at Sterling Heights Stevenson. We'll be there live at 7 p.m. to bring you all the action. And then, of course, next Sunday night, we'll be back here as always.
Yeah, we've been talking about conference races. If your school has won a championship already, clinched,
yeah,
send us a quick email or note online, and we'll mention it next week. We'll start tabulating a list of all the conference champions. If you know some players out there had amazing seasons, especially individuals that may have not been All-State last year, maybe hurt, or an underclassman who was kind of waiting in the wings, you know, feel free to let us know. I mean, and then also, you know, if you want to kind of review a little bit about how the broadcast works, like the network's only been around since the spring.
Yeah.
How do you choose games per se to go out and cover?
It's actually a great question. You know, so a lot of it started with picking what I thought, as the director of broadcasting, pick what I thought would be premier teams and games or matchups, right? So looking at leagues, right? And nothing against the west side of the state, but in our first year of doing this, what we wanted to really do is we call them the controllables, right? So a lot of what we do, there are some things that we don't have control over. Things like internet, things you know, like press boxes and things like that. So part of the controllables is going to environments that I have been with in regards to other parts of our broadcast in the past. So that's been a big part of this, is going some places that we know have what we need in order to pull a broadcast off. The second part of that is, again, marquee matchups, right? What we think are ultimately going to bring the views and bring, you know, the dramatic aspect of watching a good soccer game, right? So when I started scheduling, I reached out to the schools I felt that were going to be able to do that. And to be honest with you, I feel like what we scheduled this fall was spot on in regards to that. Does it mean that we got it right? Of course not. But the other part of this is we also want to get as many games on the network, Dan, as we possibly could. To be fair, get as many on there as we could. As we continue to grow, it's not going to be about more. It's going to be about the right game, the right matchup, and that's going to come from feedback from you. We did have a number of people who reached out to us this fall and said, "Hey, what about covering this game or covering that game?" We did do that. In regards to the Grand Rapids Christian East Grand Rapids game. The problem was, again, the controllables. We went out there we didn't have access to internet. So and the things that we have did not work. So a lot of reasons why we stayed here local this fall. But as we continue to grow, that will certainly change. But if you have marquee matchups, I don't care where you are in the state. We've gone to Mackinac Island, we've gone to Grand Rapids. I'm willing to go just about anywhere to get a good game in. And now that we have, now that we know where we are with our controllables, we have a little more ability to be able to do more with our broadcast. So, but we do appreciate anyone that wants to be a part of that or invite us to their games. Hey, if there's a game you want us to cover here over the next week and a half, as we close this season out, before playoffs, let us know. We do have some openings here as we wrap this season up. We'd love to come out and maybe get an opportunity to one of those clinching games, so to speak, that maybe we can get you on film and broadcast the game. So, but either way, we do appreciate it. Dan, anything else you want to add here before we get out of here?
No, I think it's just time where things get really interesting, really exciting, and it's sad it's all going to be over in about 5 weeks, but we'll have plenty of soccer, next spring and summer as well, with the girls' season, with the amateur soccer next summer. But I can't wait for the next few weeks. Nothing better than state tournament time in high school sports.
No, not at all. That'll do it for us here on the High School Ranking Show here on this first Sunday of October the 2nd. It's hard to believe we're already in October. Again, thank you for joining us here today. The rankings, top 60 teams coming out here next Sunday night, live here at 8 p.m. Eastern. For Dan Stickrap, my name's Jonathan Turner. As I always say here on the Michigan Soccer Network, we'll see you next time for more soccer.